Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series, but for a different spin on the Let's Talk Arsenal series. This is a show that I'm coining and claiming as the Agree to Disagree show. Now, for those that have followed me on Twitter or have ever been in a WhatsApp group with me, you will very much know that I like to use this phrase quite a lot. The reason why I like to use this phrase is because it saves me time. It saves me a lot of time discussing a point of view what I'm probably not going to change my mind on, and the person I'm discussing that with is also probably not going to change their mind about either. Drew and John, most likely involved in these conversations, of course. And what I thought would be quite cool is if we started to do this in more of an open and public forum and discuss kind of real extreme questions as well in regards to what's going on in the world of Arsenal, and some really interesting topics could come from this. And also, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I think I've got a really good idea, well, you can leave a comment in the video description or just below the video description and let us know what kind of questions you think we should be discussing, because, you know, they've got to be questions that are going to be divisive, questions that are going to cause a little bit of a debate and a fracas. And I'm going to say every couple of weeks, probably. I can't guarantee us to be showing every single week, but we're going to be getting some guests on, and I've got some pretty good ones to talk to today. First of all, from the Gooners pod, the man who only knows the way to wear a shirt is back to front. It's Mike. How you doing, mate? You good?
I'm doing lovely. It's great to be on the pilot episode of this, just like I was on your very first Gooner Talk TV show back in 2004. You
I
keep
was
on
10.
it,
10 in 2004. How old does that make you feel? That's, yeah.
It
2004,
makes
you
me
were
feel
what,
like
living
the
in
opposite
London?
of a fetus. Is what it makes me feel.
Absolutely,
I'm
indeed.
49 now. I haven't even said that out loud yet. I'm 49, and I'm
Is it 50 this year or is it next year?
it's like in a year minus 10 days, it's 50.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, we literally said it the other day, didn't we? That's really silly of me. But no, of course, great to have on the show. And yeah, I mean, myself and you, we go back and forth on a couple of topics. So this is going to be an interesting one as well. And also joining us is a very special friend of ours as well, who we've got plenty to talk about with beyond just this topic. And it's Ola. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Yeah, man. I'm good, man. Long day at work. I've been grafting out. They just got back in, and yeah, straight on the show. And thank you for having me on. Salute to you, Mike. Um, yeah, I'm privileged to be on this pilot for Agree to Disagree. So
Yeah.
Me and Pilot
I'm
usually, Ola and Mike and Pilot usually have nothing to do with each
yeah
other when it's in like aeronautics.
yeah. I mean, don't leave us staring up the plane, man. You know what I mean? We might crash and burn, but we'll see.
I was
We'll
going
see
to think,
how we.
if I was taking this show as an idea into Dragon's Den, what guests would I bring on? Would it be Mike and Ola? Oh, I don't know about that. But certainly,
You know
it's
what I
going to
mean?
be an interesting hour.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
you know,
looking
you know
forward.
what we're like in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, we're probably some of the naughtiest people in the WhatsApp group, man. But we are what we are. We like
Absolutely.
sitting on the naughty step.
Indeed. Anyway, this show is not only in aid of talking about something that's hopefully going to be very interesting for you guys to listen to and watch, but it's also in aid of a cause that is very close to both mine and Mike's heart, and even closer to our third guest, Ola, because it directly impacts him. Ola, I know that we obviously spoke the other day on Lee Judge's
Yeah,
channel talking about this, and you gave it a bit of a breakdown. But in short, tell us what the situation is.
yeah. Basically, right through for a period of time now, me and my family, we've been making applications for extended leave with the Home Office, and it's something that I've been bankrolling myself. A lot of people that around the country that knows all about the system of extending stays and stuff like that know how expensive this stuff gets. And I remember during the pandemic, because I work in the care sector, and I look after disabled people that can't really help themselves, and we try to give them better quality of life. And through the pandemic, we heard the government saying, we got all these foreign nationals helping, the NHS, helping the social care system, and trying to get people, give them a bit of stability in these uncertain times. During when the corona first hit, and nobody knew where what was happening and how to handle it. We were out there risking it every day, no unauthorized days off. I was in there every day, and I heard Keir Starmer Boris Johnson, in regards to the immigration health surcharge, and they then said they were going to exempt, care workers and NHS workers and stuff like that. So come fast forward, they're lifting up sanctions and all of that. You go to the application site, and they now saying basically you have to pay the full amount. And during those times, a lot of the law firms, they were closed, so because they were non-essential business, as you know. So the only people that were allowed to open were essential business, where supermarkets and stuff that like you need to live everyday life. So those guys that's not been working for so long, and they've now hiked up the price. Home Office has hiked up the price. It's so unsustainable. Basically, I can't get to the amount that that's being asked by the lawyers and the Home Office and for the surcharge, and it just became so difficult.
And if you can't get to that, what does it mean?
Very uncertain future for me, my family, my kids. First of all, I'm sure I sent you guys a video the other day. What they've done now is changed the law around the UK BA system, where they can basically, once you can't make the application, they can come and arrest you at your house without committing a crime, and you could be held for up to 4 years in prison, just for being a foreigner trying to make his way, living, just trying to make your way and feed your family and look after, just looking after yourself. And it's dire at the moment, and it's that serious. If I can't make it, I sent you guys some of the videos the other day of of what the new laws and parameters are around it, and they've what they've set out to do is basically for how they put you on a 10-year route, and they find ways to knock you back to the back of the queue without giving you a refund, or whatever money you've paid, and then you just got to start again. And a lot of people are going through these in this country. It's not just me. There's a lot of people. Some people can bankroll it. Some people are more luckier than others. I fall in the unlucky bracket because I've bankrolled it myself up onto this point, and basically it's got to the point I just had no more. I got no more left, and I just had to reach out to everybody,
which is a very brave thing to do, Ola. To have to reach out, it's and sometimes it's very difficult to do that because personal pride is a really understated thing at times. And you say you're unlucky, but I like to think of it as you're in a lucky position because you've got people like myself and Mike who care a lot, and of course you've been on plenty of other channels talking about this. Exactly. And what we've done, and with Mike being at the forefront of this as well, we set up a website. Ola set up the GoFundMe account. Mike has very kindly set up a direct link to make it even easier to find that account. And if you go to www.keepolahere.com, and it is literally that important, hence why the name of it, you can go over and help raise the funds that Ola, who is one of the longest serving TGT members and part of the TGT family. I was saying the other day, the best part of 7 years, myself and Ola have been friends. So, we would very much appreciate it. We've already raised over £2,000. And a lot of that has come from the help of a lot of people watching the streams with Ola. So thank you ever so much. So we'll mention this again at the end of the show. But please don't send in any... Just 2 seconds. Yeah, I'll just say, please don't send in any super chats onto this show. If you're watching, do not send in any super chats. If you want to send in anything at all, please do go to keepolahere.com and anything at all, whether it's 10p or £10 or whatever, everything helps to help one of our TGT family that is in need. Go on, Mike.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I'm a strong believer in something called paying it forward. There was a movie made about it, and paying it forward is when you just put good energy out into the world by doing good things for people. They could be strangers, they could be friends, but it's done without any intention of getting anything back. And when you pay it forward, eventually it comes back and boosts you from behind. and lifts you up. And Ola, you've been paying it forward to people you know and to people you don't know for years. And so, this is where it comes back. And hopefully this isn't the limit and the entirety of where it comes back. But so, this is I'm glad that you bit the bullet and came to us about it, because
it was very, very difficult, but
I'm sure it is. And that's why I never, I would never question. I question some GoFundMe sometimes. I have to be honest with you. I'm skeptical sometimes about the cause and about whether, a person could have planned better for certain things. And truly, sometimes there is just a situation where, you don't deserve to be in the position that you're in. And that couldn't feel that way more about this. The GoFundMe has 98 people that have donated so far. The most recent one of those,
thank
Danny
you
DFP,
so much.
Gary,
100 donations.
So I've got to hit refresh here, but we're
thank you so much to everybody that's donated, shared, even word of mouth, whatever you've done to at least try and promote it or do something positive for the GoFundMe campaign. I truly appreciate it. I can't thank you enough.
and it's grown
I have
by
no
a
word
little over
for it.
$1,000 just since Sunday night, which is I think when the first kind of podcast publication of it. So we know that a lot of this money is coming from the Arsenal community, from people who have met you, and from people who haven't but know who you are or who we are and vouch for you. So without further ado, let's get to the question. But I just wanted to let you know this is not a favor. This is karma, man. Good.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate
absolutely.
it. I appreciate it so much.
Let's get to the second reason as to why we've joined up tonight for today's show. And I tell you what, this is an interesting question. I know Mike nearly scoffed at when I read out what the question was going to be for tonight's show. And you've probably seen it from the thumbnail, of course, at the beginning of the video. But the question that we are kicking off our Agree to Disagree series is: has Mikel Arteta done more in 2 years than Wenger and Emery did in the prior 10 to Arteta taking over at Arsenal? So to provide a little bit of clarity before we get the initial answer and start the discussion, this is all around the work that's been done ever since Mikel Arteta took over, kind of where the club was when he took over to where it has been now, and the things that have been achieved in comparison to the point from 2012 onwards. So yes, that does include the FA Cup victories under Arsene Wenger and Unai Emery's tenure as well. Mike, I'm going to start with you. This is a simple yes or no, first of all, and then we'll go into kind of the reasons as to why. Yes or no, has Mikel Arteta done more in the last 2 years than Wenger and Emery in the prior 10?
More good or more bad?
I can't tell you. I just need a yes or no answer. Has he done more?
Has he done more? No.
Ola.
No.
Well, I'm going to go down and play devil's advocate and say yes. So we're going to kick off, Mike, with yourself. Talk us through this.
Well, you're going to hate me for this, but my answer of no is purely because you cannot possibly do more in 2 years than you can in 10. And because you didn't clarify whether it's more beneficial stuff for the club.
Yeah, okay. So I'll clarify. It's okay. So it's done more as in for the club's benefit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then my answer is a soft yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I was just
Still
being
enough
an
from me.
ass. I was just being an
Still
ass.
Yeah, that's fine. Good to clarify. So why is yours a soft yes?
Well, because the jury's still out on it, but on debate shows, you can't account for the future. You can only account for what you know. So, I think when you look at Arsene Wenger, let's look at Arsene Wenger first. And if it was the 10 years before that, we're going back to 2010. But whether it's 2010, 2012 until he left, he did exactly what the split ownership group of Arsenal Football Club wanted him to do. Which is a failing of the split ownership situation and the majority owner, who is, of course, KSE. He got the team to balance the books and then some with European money by getting in the top four every single year and keeping the club marketable as a world name. So in that sense, he did a lot for the club. But when you look at the situation that Unai Emery inherited and eventually Mikel Arteta inherited, it is purely down to the vacuum of power outside of Arsene Wenger, in my opinion, that was left, and there was so much unseen damage. It's like a piece of wood underneath, behind the wall that's rotting, and you just don't know how bad it's rotting until something finally falls through it, and then you've got a whole big job on your hand. And that's exactly how I see, the Arsenal situation. So, FA Cups are nice. He won 3 in his last 8 years. Arteta's won 1 in his 2.5 years, and so I'd almost call that even. And I know a lot of people who like to say that Arteta won that with the squad he inherited, but that makes it, I think, even more impressive at that point, because I'm not so sure that the previous coach, in his relationship with the players as it became, would have been able to turn that team into an FA Cup winner, unless Aubameyang in his glory at that time really just it didn't matter anything else that was going on around him. But so yeah, I mean, I think you can't misconstrue this, I believe, as somebody did early in the chat, as being, does he done more already than Arsene Wenger has? Because the first 10 years of Arsene Wenger are unquestionably among, yeah, I mean, it's among the best 10-year stretch of any manager, probably along with Fergie in the history of the game. So
yeah, it was just the decade prior to Arteta taking. Well, yeah, the decade prior to Arteta taking over. So actually, that goes back to what, 2009.
2009, 2010. Well, 2010, because he took over pretty much New Year's.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, in those years, it was a steady decline, with 1 year of second place where we actually had a shot at winning the league, and then tanked it.
2016. Yeah.
So
and FA Cups as well.
Yeah. So I mean, without having this be 20 minutes of me, then 20 minutes of Ola, then 20 minutes of you, I'll stop there. But my reason for saying, my initial reason for kind of giving the last 10 years of Arsene Wenger maybe a 5 on a scale from 0 to 10, and I'll give my Arteta number later if you want. But it's that slow downward slide, with the just the absolute rot beneath the surface that no one really saw coming. And you can't blame Wenger solely for that, but he was given 100% power in the club because he was the one thing that was stable about it, and that mistake proved costly. So I can't credit Wenger for that. I can't absolve him for it either.
Ola, you said no. Talk us through your reasoning.
I mean, when you look at what Emery did, what Wenger did, Wenger first, during that 10-year period that we're talking about, couple trophies in there, ones that we thought, he should have walked after, especially after the whole FA Cup win. Then we won another one against Villa. In the cup final. And those two, the whole one, I thought, all right, maybe he should have left. The Villa one, he definitely should have left, but it was still there. But you look at what he did during those times, and the players we had in the team. I still felt like Wenger, as much as you. Because I was one of the people that was campaigning him to go at the time. I wanted him gone.
I think you were alone, mate.
I was very vocal about it. I wanted him gone, and with that said, still Wenger on his bad day is still very good. He's much better than a lot of managers around the league today. On his bad day, he's still better than most of, and that's why I still went with a no, because for me, Arteta coming into the job, with no experience, we weren't even a skepticism. It was like a big no from me. Like, we can't give such a big job after we've seen Emery, someone that I thought, is coming in with vast experience in, especially in the competition that we was in at the time, which was Europa League. You know, it won three, on the bounce or something like that. You know what I mean? So it was really, really good. And I thought about that appointment. I thought, yeah, that's the kind of appointment that we need. And when we sacked him, I thought, yeah, you know what, we're going to definitely go for somebody that's probably got a much bigger and better credentials than what Emery had. It turned out we were bringing in a former player with zero experience in managing a football club, let alone a football club the size of Arsenal. Now, when you compare what he's done in the past 2 years, all right, he won the FA Cup coming in, but that was towards the end of the season. It's almost like finishing what Emery had left behind, you know, because he came in halfway through the season to complete the season and won the FA Cup. But the teams that he beat doing it made kind of at that point made me earn he put credit in the bank, as the phrase was going at the time. Like, all right, maybe
just remember the FA Cup hadn't started by the time Arteta was hired, so the season was half done, but the FA Cup hadn't started for Arsenal.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah, but what I meant was, like, he took over the players that Emery left behind, and it's still half the season. So, to me, put credit in the bank, right? But still, when you then look at some of the ways that some players were, I thought some of them were harshly treated. People like Saliba, I don't know. We'd never know the ins and outs of things. But knowing the type of manager that Wenger was, we know those type of situations would have been dealt with a little bit more subtle, a little bit differently. Maybe a little bit of arms around them and stuff like that, which is something everybody has their own way of dealing with things. Arteta has his way. He's the guy, he's the man at the club. But the things that Emery and Wenger did combining in that 10 years, I still think outweighs what Arteta's done so far. Now, Arteta's now on the right path with the last few run of games that we've seen. And what happened in January? Because I was moaning in January, especially with not bringing nobody in, because I wanted somebody in. Like, even last day, the final day of the transfer window, I was all over it. Like, what we bringing in? We didn't bring nobody in. We got rid of a lot of people, and we did that. We did that in the summer as well. All right, we brought in some young players in the summer. They've hit the ground running. A lot of them have. Maybe Sambia and Tavares, they've kind of slowed down they slowed down a little bit, but largely,
Partey have been in their way, haven't they? So yeah,
largely the signings have worked. Tomiyasu, Ben White, Gabriel, Ramsdale is still the one, and these guys have worked. We haven't seen that many signing at the same time hit the ground running in a long time, So that I want to give him a little bit of, I want to give him some flowers for that. But when you look at everything on the whole, I don't think is really got. It's not there yet to where you can compare what Wenger did and what Wenger brought to the table. Even though he was declining, that's why I premised it earlier on, that on Wenger's bad day is still better than a lot of these managers in the league. So I want to see what Arteta does next. Yeah, because there's this talk about the Champions League and making the Champions League. What are you gonna do when we get there next? What's the next thing? What's the next step? And if he follows it up and carries on in this trajectory, then he's gonna start turning me around on some of the opinions that I have about him. But he's on the right path.
Well, since the Barcelona matchup that we almost won, I mean, what did Wenger do in his last 10 years once we got into the I mean,
we went out
it was quite underwhelming. I remember quarterfinals and round of 16 games against Roma,
European games. Yeah, we got.
But those are all before the final 10 years. And if you bring Mikel Arteta flowers, you got a problem because the guy smells so good already. I cannot imagine what it would smell like with Klopp.
The reason why I said yes at the beginning of this is, look, and I wanted to get kind of your thoughts on this first before responding, just to get kind of a bit more clarity on it. But the reason why I'm a yes right now is because of the kind of the massive changes that I see in this short period of time in comparison to the 8 years before he took over. I think that under Arsene Wenger, during the period from 2010 to when he moved on, in that period, whilst we won cups, we were gradually falling away. We were falling away from our ambitions. We were falling away in terms of competitiveness. We were making poorer and poorer decisions in the transfer market. Players were being put on huge wages. I think we think about, Mesut Ozil and the British core. I mean, the amount that Cole Jenkinson was put on, Theo Walcott, were put on extortionate levels of money when we could have decided instead not to stay loyal to those players, but upgrade. Less so Mesut Ozil, but definitely players like Cole Jenkinson and Theo Walcott, for example, who I think that you look at Mikel Arteta and say what he's done with this squad. He's been ruthless with certain members of the squad, and he's brought in players despite having Leno, brought in Ramsdale, despite having Tierney, still bringing in a player like Tavares, who was outcompeted Tierney at certain points during the season and remained in that number one spot. And I think that the unity, and I think a lot of people brought this up in the chat box, the unity not only between the squad looks the most unified it has ever been, but the unity between the majority of the fan base and the club and the players. I think there's still a small portion that certainly are quite vocal, that would certainly say that they're still not yet behind this manager, or they need more evidence, which is fine. If you're putting that across in a respectful, non-abusive way. And I think that what we've seen now is we've seen a manager that is starting to galvanize those people that have been on the fence. He's getting more and more supporters as the weeks go by. But the thing is that I feel like if we revisited this question, say in 4 months' time after, fingers crossed, qualifying for the Champions League and having a strong transfer window, I think there may be a lot more yeses to this. And we're going to put a poll in the chat box halfway through this show, and probably about 10 more minutes just after we've given some more context for you guys to vote yes or no. But I think that, Ollie, you raised an important point, is that, factually and in terms of, what's been achieved on the pitch, he hasn't yet done anything in terms of where we finished. We haven't yet qualified for the Champions League. We haven't yet finished higher than 8th, even though we look very much likely we're going to do it. We haven't actually done that yet. So I can completely understand still having that position. But I still think there is so much evidence that points towards that we're moving in the right direction that just wasn't achieved under Emery and wasn't achieved under the end of Arsene Wenger's reign. Mike, I'll let you come in now. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so hence why I said the trajectory that he's on, if he maintains it, he's definitely going to turn me around on ask me this question and he maintains it, that trajectory, you'll get a yes from me.
Well, and here's my take on that is I would agree with that if we're talking about what clearly is the most important thing, which is results and on the pitch performance. We'll know a lot more in 3 months, and we'll certainly know a lot more in 15 months when we see hopefully a return to big Europe and a return to doing well in big Europe. But that we'll learn a lot about this squad, the depth, the ability to manage multiple competitions, because that really has helped him out this season, just as it helped Jurgen Klopp out in his second season after finishing 8th the first one. So, but what, and again, I think a lot of people in the chat, and I will point out the super chat in case you want to address that, Tom, but don't super chat anymore. We appreciate it, but go to the website at the scroll at the bottom of the screen.
Don't super chat this show. Wayne, we really appreciate your kind donation. And Wenger failed to bring in a Thomas Partey type player. Partey has gotten the best out of Xhaka, and Wenger failed to address the defence, which I think are absolutely fair points during that period of time we're talking about. But yes, no more super chats, people. Go to the link that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. If you want to donate, go and donate.
Take the super chat money, treble it, and then go to keepolahere.com, please. All right, so and so again, the on the pitch performance is still a work in process, and it certainly is trending the right way. And can you say that 2 seasons or a season and a half of finishing 8th and getting to where we are so far is better than what Arsene Wenger did in his last 8, and even what Unai Emery did in 5th and in 6th? No, I don't think so. But for me, I think much like with Tom, it's It's about the renovation of the club. And I must be Owen or something using all these like building and construction references that he does. But I mean, it's the off the pitch. No question when Arsene Wenger came in 1996, which is outside the scope of this discussion, he renovated player nutrition, training, the training ground, everything that we know that he did to change the way that football was played, not just at Arsenal, is incredible. But once again, I think once he got comfortable, won some leagues, won some doubles, a lot of that started to go. We had the Invincibles. A lot of it started to kind of go down the tubes, and he got comfortable. He turned into a coach much like Ancelotti and others, where you're more of a just a manager of egos and a coach who wants to let his incredible superstars express themselves. But we didn't have the team for that. We didn't have the profile for that. We had a new stadium that was being paid off, which he kept the books balanced for. But that's where the rot began, in my opinion. And you had the training, and I'm not just speculating this because of our performance. And Tom, maybe you have as well. But I've spoken to many people who would know that the training under Arsene Wenger was shambolic, especially in the back.
During the period of time we're talking about,
yes,
there was a lot of questions.
As in when he didn't have a back four of Saul Campbell and Lee Dixon and so on.
I think it's also the fact that he kind of maintained his philosophy throughout, and there wasn't too much change throughout the entirety of his tenure. So when you're then buying players that have played under coaches that have learned their trade in the late noughties and the early 2010s, you've then got a situation where they're coming to the club and they're seeing this a style and a training regime that just was nowhere near kind of the level of forward thinking that the coaches that had been training under were. So you're
right,
spot
and
on.
Half the people would come in and be like, "This is ridiculous. I want to go to a team with ambition," and the other half would be like, "Oh, this is great. I get a vacation. I get to miss games when when the game's up at Burnley and I can decide that my back hurts a little bit." And that was just absolutely rampant in the end stage Arsene Wenger years, to the point where we had Theo Walcott in the Monday Night Massacre at Crystal Palace captaining the team and saying that the other team, which was the day I met Ola, actually, the very day I met Ola, 5 years ago next week, saying that you could just tell from the start that Palace wanted it more, was his post-game comment. That's the lowest point in my Arsenal career as a supporter, and it was, and it just shows you what the team had become under him, and what I see, Arteta has started from such a worse position than Arsene Wenger did, taking over for Bruce Rioch after a short spell, following George Graham. And I know Stuart Houston was in there and all that, so don't at me. But the whole job that he's had to do, Unai Emery coached the team pretty well. He did all right. He implemented his experience and his strategy on players who ultimately didn't respect him for whatever reason, because they were the dross that we needed to get rid of. But he wasn't responsible and probably wasn't allowed, to be fair, to deal with any of the underpinnings of the club.
Do you think that that's a case of where Mikel Arteta kind of earned the right very quickly to take control, whereas Unai Emery, this may come across as harsh. I don't think Unai Emery achieved anything at Arsenal. People will talk about him getting to a European final. He lost it. People talk about him getting a point behind top four. Well, if he'd have taken the games against Palace and Brighton seriously, we would have finished in the top four.
And Everton, I mean that slide, we had third in sight, and then we somehow ended up in fifth, and that's with winning our final game of the season.
I don't think he achieved anything at all at Arsenal, and I think that's why it makes it so easy to put him in this kind of bracket of the 10 years, because.
The complaint about Unai Emery from Unai Emery supporters is not that he didn't achieve it, is that he achieved a whole bunch. It's that he wasn't given the same latitude and space that Arteta has. And I'm sorry, life isn't fair.
He didn't earn it either, I don't think.
He didn't earn it, and he wasn't given. It doesn't matter.
Let's remember what his interview was like. This man came with a whole dossier. Like he had a dossier of everyone.
We love a dossier.
He was one of the dossiers. Like he would have been in a boy band with Tom and Drew as the dossier boys. But dossier boys,
look, it didn't work, and that's not to say if I turn around and say that look, he didn't achieve anything at Arsenal. That's not me saying he's a bad coach. You look at what he's doing at Villarreal since he's gone back there. You look at what he did at Sevilla. He's not a bad coach. He's done brilliant things in Spain, and that is where he is best suited, and that's where he is able to get his ideas across. Some
coaches and managers are better at clubs that are second tier than they are at clubs that are top tier, and I am calling Arsenal top tier because of expectations, because of the burden of the crest, not because we played like it the last 5 years, or 10 years, but we've seen how Brendan Rodgers does when he's at Swansea and at Leicester compared to how he does when he's at Liverpool, which was kind of a sinking ship at the end, and I don't count Celtic. I mean, anyone could win there, but. So certain managers are cut out for certain jobs and certain managers aren't. And we didn't know whether Arteta was cut out for a certain job or not, but he's been given the keys in a way that was maybe a little less total than Arsene Wenger, because we now have a management structure that's in control. Whole separate subject, but don't get me started on Kroenke's responsibility between 2008 and 2018 when he didn't, when he basically would have been giving 30% of anything he did to Alisher Usmanov of all people. But we've seen a very different ownership structure. We've seen one that has made a few mistakes, has had to reboot a couple times, but now it seems to be working. And I think that success will feed success. And the most important thing, and there's been a lot of slip ups on this over the last few years, even under Mikel Arteta, is I think we're starting to get back to the Arsenal way. And that's
great channel, by the way. You should go check that out.
Little plug for the podcast. But have they come after you for that yet?
What the Arsenal way, like stealing that name? I didn't.
I mean, the Kroenkes aren't, because they don't know what that means.
I didn't come up with it. It's not me. It's nothing to do with me. Just quickly, for those that are watching and those that have been tuning in for the whole time, I want to give a shout out to Matt Hansen, to Talia Tavares, to Desmond Edwards, Scott Gleeson, Anonymous, an amazing character, Michael Berger, and Brian Valiente, and Daniel Sweetman, of course, who have all donated in the last hour and have raised now over £120 just in the last hour towards Ola's cause, which, if you want to know more about, scroll back to the first 10 minutes of the video and you can find out all about it. But if you'd like to help support the cause, link is in the description, and of course scrolling across the bottom of your screen as well. Don't give me any super chats, go and donate.
I want to meet this anonymous character, because he's donated.
I know, he pops up. He's a very generous person.
Like 20 times.
I say he. Who knows?
Oh,
who
knows?
Yeah. And thank you to all of them. Thank you very much.
Ola, I want to ask you the question. If you were to do a list, if I'm thinking back to an episode of Friends where Ross did a pro and con list of Rachel, I'm thinking back to this. And if you did like a list of what for you has Arteta achieved since he's been here, like a list of achievements, that doesn't have to be like, trophies and, place finishes, but just what have been his achievements during the time he's been?
All right. So basically the pluses of Arteta since he's turned up. Basically, all right. I feel I'm going to give him credit for getting rid of a lot of the players that they were dragging this club down. I mean, wage-wise, performance-wise. I'm talking people like Mustafi, people like Kolasinac, like moving. Yeah, you went and got the share. I remember the tank. The Ozil situation.
Put yours in the chat box, by the way, people. We'll start putting some of them up as well. Keep going, mate. To get rid of those sort of players that were literally dragging the club down. Some players were just there taking paycheck after paycheck and be happy to sit on the bench, which was something that it now became a culture. Arsenal, people were turning Arsenal Football Club into a retirement home. We have people like Peter Cech coming to, even though he done well in patches, and I gotta give
check. A big credit for that FA Cup win as well. But when you look at what Arteta's done in terms of moving players out off the wage bill and getting the wage bill to where it is now, it deserves a lot of credit. A lot of credit for that. On the other hand, I look at the unity. Well, look, a lot of people are singing from the same hymn sheet now. I'm not quite there yet, but I like what I'm saying. You know, I like what I'm saying, and it's still a long way because, like,
the first time that we go through it. Including the I'm not
can't,
there yet.
He can't help himself. Hey, he just can't do it. It's just this little animal inside him just trying to get out.
It's what I said about the comb over, man.
Camera and ruining the entire show with my habitat.
It's what I said about the comb over, Mike. Remember?
Well, I listened to you.
Terence is really pushing you, Ola, to give 5 positives about Arteta. Can you give 5? So far, we've got
minutes 5. That he spent in time out earlier on the show.
You know what I mean? Now
we've got moving on the deadwoods, and we've got improving the wage bill. That's what we've got.
Improving the wage bill. All right. A lot, like I said, a lot of the fans now are singing from the same hymn shit.
The struggle.
Yeah, I want to say no. I want to try and be realistic, based on what I've seen.
We're gonna do this
based on what I've seen. I want to be trying to be realistic, and I don't want to be blowing smoke up Arteta's ass because that's not what this is. Yeah.
No,
so, the improvement that I've seen in the defense recently, the amount of goals that we're conceding and the shots that we're conceding per game, because I noticed that under Emery, when the amount of shots we're conceding, just shots alone, conceding on goal under Emery was staggering. You know, it was like a basketball game, and he was happy with that. The way I saw in his tactics, he was happy with that, and he was almost confident that eventually we're going to outscore you. And I remember Liverpool used to play like that once upon a time under Brendan Rodgers. You know, it's just about outscoring you. They don't mind leaving the back door open, but they're going to outscore you because of the forwards that they had. And I felt like Emery did the same thing. Arteta did that a little bit earlier into his tenure. It's only now that, you know, later part of this season that everything's starting to look nice. So I think I'm at 4. 5. This 5th one is going to be a struggle.
Survived COVID twice.
How about that?
I used to like his press conferences.
Twice. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Survived COVID twice. There you go.
Yeah.
And
Arsene Wenger never would have done that.
Yeah. Where's his COVID scout badge?
Terrible. I mean, you know, it affects the elderly a lot worse. So
no, you're being literal. I was actually thinking about it more theoretically, like as in, like he got the club through the. You were thinking about it more literally. Yeah, you're being absolutely awful. No, I mean seriously, like, you know, he takes over the club in end of 2019. The pandemic hits in March of the following year. He wins an FA Cup that season. Next year is not great, and we all know that. But he's gone through that period, and then this season, after, you know, dealing with the aftermath of, I say the aftermath, we're still in it, but you know what I mean. Yeah, the period of which we've become accustomed to it, and we're pushing forwards as well. There are a lot of clubs that haven't. I mean, you look at Leicester and how they've kind of just completely plummeted throughout the pandemic period. So I think that it certainly is one that's on there, and how he's dealt with the pandemic as well. Mike, I want to continue adding to this list, and then obviously we're going to do the other. We're going to do it with the Wenger and Emery period. So what other? We've got moving on deadwood, improving the wage bill, the fan unity, improvements in the defence, and dealing with the pandemic. What would you add to that list of successes under Arteta's tenure?
There's one that comes to mind, and it's somewhat related to the others, but instituting I mean, people hate this, but the non-negotiables. He's done it in a way that if you're a player and you're alienated by it, you aren't openly discussing your alienation and letting it show on the pitch. I mean, we know that Aubameyang was popular in the dressing room. I can't speak so much about on a grand scale whether Ozil was or not, but we certainly know he had his disciples, but didn't really,
I think they went with him, didn't they?
Yeah, well, they went with him, and there was a polite goodbye from everybody else. With Aubameyang, it was a little bit more heartfelt. And but we didn't have any, even Lacazette, who we all know was super close to Aubameyang. Martinelli, who said when he first came into the club, the first person to embrace him and bring him into the fold was Aubameyang. They basically said, okay, well, I mean, it was almost like a lesson learned. Like, this is the new Arsenal now. Not, we can't believe what you just did to our friend, and we're going to down tools now because of it. So, I mean, I just think it's, whether you think from the outside, and what we know from the outside is probably 10% of what happened on the inside. What you think may have happened with Saliba, Guendouzi, Alba, whether or not Kolasinac and Mustafi were Ozilites, or whether they just sucked as a reason for their release. Willian is a kind of a unique story, but he's the one that actually left without asking for a big payout, as far as we know. But the non-negotiables that he's implemented have pared our squad down from a bloated wage bill and a bloated squad of pretty much losers in many cases, to a tight 18 to 20 person squad of players who are willing to run through a brick wall for him. And we're going to clearly improve upon that over the summer with more depth and more quality. So I don't know what you would summarize that. Maybe just say non-negotiables. But
that's what I've written down.
his non-negotiables, which have gotten him so much flack, I just don't see how you can look back at them and say that it was anything other than brilliant man management. And I think I would rather let a good player go because of over committing to hyper non-negotiables than let a I don't want to use the word, but a cancer in the clubhouse or on the team fester around for any longer, because we've seen what that can do to teams. We're seeing right now what that sort of thing can do to a Manchester United, and I don't want that to happen anymore here. So I think that sticking to his non-negotiables has worked, and I don't believe that he's unreasonable about it. I don't believe that he's fallen out with Pepe and with Saliba and all these people. I mean, it's easy to say that because he doesn't play them, or they've fallen down, below someone in the pecking order. But I don't know. I don't buy it. He's earned my trust in that regard.
Yeah, I would add lowering the overall age profile of the squad significantly with the signs that we made. I would add, I think he's improved players. Gabriel Martinelli's integrated him and got the best from him that we're starting to see this season. Bukayo Saka, Smith Rowe have obviously added an absolutely different dimension to their game in regards to goal contributions this season. I think that Martin Odegaard, the player that we saw for 6 months, he's been able to integrate him and become an integral part of this team. Thomas Partey, I think we're finally seeing the Thomas Partey that we expected to see when he joined, and he's maximised him in 2022, and we've seen the best from him, and that has enabled also Granit Xhaka to show us some of the best performances that we've seen during his time at Arsenal. It's not been perfect. I don't think you can you can't always teach an old dog new tricks, and you can't always get the red cards out of your dog, that's for sure. But I think we've seen the maximum from him. I think that he's integrated youth. I mean, starting to see pathways for the likes of Charlie Patino to get senior appearances. We're seeing players like Alabiosu, Salah Adine, Mika Biereth, Amari Hutchinson all get spells on the bench, Arthur Okonkwo as well, which is good experience for them, despite not yet getting on the field. And I'm sure if we had more European football and more cups to play in, we'd surely see them as well. And investing in Prem-proven talent, which is not something that Arsene Wenger did. He didn't invest in your Ben Whites and your Aaron Ramsdales of this world. He went abroad, which is fine, and Arteta's done that too with success. But for years, I remember we had discussions on the podcast, we need to sign players from the Premier League.
I was screaming for Nathan Ake. That's how bad things are.
Exactly, yes. And I think that has certainly improved.
He also, by the way, I forgot one.
Go on.
He signed Leo Messo.
Oh, yeah. I'll add that to the list very far down. So let's do the same for Wenger and Emery's eras from 2010 to 29 till the end of 2019 to 2020. Ola, we'll start with you. Tell me the successes of those two coaches during that 10-year period. I was hoping you'd be a bit quicker.
Either he's on mute, or we've just or
broken
dabbled
Yeah,
his
I
thing
was on mute. I was on mute. Sorry, I was on mute. This
that
happens to me
doesn't
all the
explain why
fucking
your lips
time.
weren't moving.
Jesus. I would say, you know, I highlighted the two FA Cup trophies with Hull and Aston Villa.
And Chelsea.
You know,
And
especially
Chelsea.
ending and Chelsea. Yeah, especially the big one is ending the trophy drought because we went on a long drought at that time and
That you
ending it.
caused.
What you know that well yeah that
I'm joking. No, it's
you know,
important. It's
but you
important.
know, ending that trophy drought was significant. And you know, we were, even though it was against Hull, we were seen in a little bit of a different light at that time, and it was almost like we were back a little bit, and
It's
that's
like what
probably what
Spurs are
prompted
considered as now, right? You know, the
yeah.
bottler.
So, um, Wenger, I mean, he brought some high profile players to the club, like people like Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez,
Yep.
And you know,
Aubameyang.
all these guys always said after speaking to Wenger, you know, they just wanted to come play for him. He is the sole reason, having that personal conversation with him on the phone convinced them to, you know, to come to Arsenal. I remember being really happy about those players coming to the club, and I still remember every time. I mean, we've been there countless times, Tom and Mike. You know, just watching Alexis Sanchez in the stadium, just doing his thing. I'm like, take my money. You know, this was how fantastic that
Take my
squad
guaranteed money, give it to
was.
Mainsley.
Yeah, you know, Tom was winning all of them.
Joey were like,
yeah. Or was it 2-0? Aubameyang to score. We got that right.
Oh my!
it was just a win and Aubameyang to score.
I think it was just win, wasn't it? Was it Cardiff?
And that was the Mainsley game, right?
Was it? Mainsley game was AC Milan, wasn't it?
That was the Watford game.
I mean, would you say finishing above Spurs for so long is an achievement? You know what? I'll chuck it in. We could have done better in the Champions League. That's probably the one gripe that I really had with Wenger. But you know, qualifying as you see today, being in the Champions League with the modern day that we now live in, just qualifying in it is a big deal. And he did it for 20 years with relatively rubbish budgets. You know,
as soon as he stopped doing it, it became a big deal to everyone else.
You know what I mean? It's crazy, right? But yeah, so those
this question because so many people can't understand what period we're talking about in the chat box.
I mean, there's been so many, and I don't, you know, it might just be people coming in, but they're not reading the thing. Yeah. But yeah, there you go.
Hopefully that helps. There you go. I think so we've added there ending the trophy drought, 3 FA Cups, signing huge players like Ozil, Alexis, and Aubameyang, domination over Spurs. Mike, what else would you add to the successes of Wenger and Emery during that 10-year period?
Again, I can't think of too many successes that aren't also tinged with a bit of failure on Unai Emery's part.
Do you include the Europa League final? I struggle to add it because of how embarrassingly we lost in the final.
Well, I mean, he's clearly.
I blame down on Mkhitaryan not being there. That's.
Yeah.
I honestly,
if Mickey had been there, we would have battered Chelsea.
We also sold Olivier Giroud, who scored against us in that final.
Yeah, you know.
The one time Olivier Giroud let me down was that day. But Monaco, I suppose. But so for Unai Emery, I'm trying to start with him. I mean, he was very gracious to me when my phone alarm went off in front of him at the podium.
Yeah.
So from a personal note,
come on, this is embarrassing. Surely those two did things in that 10 years that get onto a success list. Chatbox, help us out. What are we missing?
Well, I haven't gotten to. Yeah, well, for Arsene Wenger in those 10 years, he kept. I mean, again, tinged with a little bit of failure because it came at the expense of potentially results and losing an infrastructure that ultimately collapsed after people realized, but keeping our books balanced during the years of continuing to pay off the stadium debt is a positive. Of course, on the flip side, it resulted in us supposedly having to sell Van Persie, Fabregas, so on and so forth. I'll double the compliment of him bringing in Alexis Sanchez in the sense, and what few people remember when they talk about the Fabregas incident of right of first refusal and then allowing him to go to Chelsea is, had we brought in Fabregas, we would not have brought in Alexis Sanchez. And I think that would have been the wrong decision. They happened. They happened the same summer. So, the
argument was we had Özil. So why do we need to bring in?
That was the argument at the time, and I don't know whether I mean I know for a fact the two of them are very close. If you had seen Cesc Fabregas at his at the Arsene Wenger David Dean thing at the in Soho a few months ago, Cesc looked at him like a father, and Arsene hugged him like a father. But he may have still been stung competitively with his decision to leave. That might have played into him not coming back to Arsenal. But I do think it's more about, not adding him just to add him. And then they went out and got Alexis Sanchez, which was the reason for most of the success that we had in those FA Cups. So there isn't a whole lot, because again, we're not talking about what he did previous to that. We're acting like he was a new coach in 2010 and really just kind of kept the club where they were.
Yeah. I
can tell you some negatives. I mean,
yeah, I know. I don't really want to do negatives because I think it. I don't want to sit here and bash. To be honest, like Wenger and.
Well, then let me flip this as a positive for Arsene Wenger.
Is building the stadium a positive? The
stadium. It's not that period.
He had nothing to do with the stadium being built. He was just responsible for balancing the books when it was.
Well,
when we were paying off.
Built the chair. You broke,
that's what
Mike.
I put. I've put as a positive keeping us in the top four during those years of financial austerity up until 2015-16.
Which is I'm not suggesting falling out of the top four would have made our situation better, but he kept a rotting foundation from rotting sooner, and he contributed to the rotting, in my opinion, that led to where we are now. But doesn't mean it would have been any better had we slipped out of the Champions League 2 or 3 years earlier. We probably would have continued to sell our best players even more in those situations. So yeah, I mean, but my positive with Mikel Arteta, and I've saw this crop up on the internet a lot after the Liverpool game, is Arteta can't win the big one, can't beat the good teams, and here we go. Can't beat the big teams, and the thought process is, well, Arsene Wenger used to be, you never knew what would happen, and I'm like, are you crazy? Yeah, we beat Chelsea 5-3 once, but we also, I remember a 6-1 game, I remember a 6-0 game, I remember a 6-3 game, we all remember an 8-2 game. There was a 5-1 game. I mean, Arsene.
I remember. Sorry to cut you there. I remember the 1,000 game. The 1,000 games stuck in my mind.
That was the 6-0. It was either Chelsea or
I was at that game, and I lost my car. After that game, I was all over Holloway looking for my car. I couldn't bloody find it for hours, man. Like, I was
probably got sick of what was happening that day and drove itself home. But so look, I'm not gonna make the same mistake I said once, where I said our losses are better losses than they used to be. But we've competed a number of times against Liverpool and either drawn or should, we've really had some unfortunate outcomes against Liverpool. We had 20 bad minutes the other day. We will and need to get resolve that. We had a game right at the beginning of the startup again where Sane knocked out Kieran Tierney and didn't even get so much as a foul for
Mane. Or Sane. Mane.
Yes, Sane. Yes, Mane Sane. Did that. That's his evil alter ego. So
a friend of mine does that to their name all the time.
I
really
can
irritating.
Never get it right. I can never get it right. But it's like Mainsley, like Sane. You can't say that we're not. It's starting to compete more, and you see an improvement against those teams. And it was going in the opposite direction under Arsene Wenger. It just seemed like 5-1 Bayern Munich. When there was a big
10-2.
game to play, it was not just a hard competed loss. It was a travesty. And it I think that goes down to training and mentality of the team.
I have to say that there was some the 8-2 against Man United was in 2011-12 as well during that.
Well,
period.
You know what the best piece of news about that was?
What was that?
It brought Mikel Arteta into the club.
Yeah, we panicked, didn't we? Yeah, that's an interesting one. But this is what I'm saying, and this is why. I mean, just to have a quick look at the poll that we put out. It is very close, and I think that's really interesting. Is that, and it kind of goes to show that despite Mikel Arteta not yet achieving 4th place and not yet finishing anything higher than 8th in the Premier League, is that a lot of the fans have looked beyond that and seen what's kind of happening behind the scenes as to where we've improved. So it's 50-50 and I find that mad because I really thought it was going to be so heavily in favour of Arsene Wenger and Emery. So it's 50-50 right now.
I would love to see that poll on multiple different podcasts.
Yes, what I would say is that I think you're all very much on my train of thought. That's why you probably subscribed.
You've complained about the echo chamber before, but you've built a very nice one.
I've built a very nice one indeed. That's why I get Ola on. Ola's like smashing down this echo chamber. But no, I mean, you think about it though. We've tried, and this is why I wanted to do this kind of comparison. You know, the successes in that specific year of the last 10 years, ending the trophy drought, 3 FA Cups, bringing in big players like Ozil, Alexis, Aubameyang, domination over Spurs, top 4 up until 2015-16. And then you look at kind of the achievements in just the space of 2 years that we've come up with for Arteta, moving on all of the deadwood, wage bill improvements, fan unity, improvements in the defence, dealing with the pandemic, the non-negotiables that's been instilled, the lowering of the age profile, improving players like Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe, Ødegaard, Partey, Xhaka, integrating youth players like Charlie Patino and giving opportunities for first-team experience like Alabiosu, Salah Radin, Tim Akinnola, I don't think he was there, but Mika Biref, and who's the one I'm forgetting? There's one more, Amari Hutchinson, and investing in Premier League proven talent. This is why I wanted to raise this question, because I do genuinely believe there is a solid argument that more has been achieved behind the scenes. The big thing, and I know this is where Ola's head will rest, is that he is yet to achieve that but that next main achievement being top 4 is the first step. And then pushing Arsenal onwards from there, not just establishing ourselves in the top 4, but pushing us onwards to being title challengers again. And that's going to take time. I don't think you would have seen many managers come in when Arteta came in and got us to, a top 4 finish in the space of a year or 2. And the fact that we could do that in the space of just 2.5 seasons under Arteta, I think is a real achievement. But it's not done yet, and we need to see that through. We're going to round the show off.
That's why we're going to do this. We're going to do this every week until.
God, imagine. To round this off, I want to see if we are going to agree, or are we going to agree to disagree? Mike, on the question, has Mikel Arteta done more in 2 years than Wenger and Emery did in the prior 10 in terms of positive achievements? 2010 to 2019, yes or no?
Yes.
Ola, has Mikel Arteta done more in 2 years than Wenger and Emery did in the prior 10?
Still a no, but I want to see more.
We are going to agree to disagree on this show, which is absolutely fine, and that's what we do.
I'm going to agree to kick your ass after this.
You know what the thing is with me? When me and Drew finally do this show's going to be 5 minutes long. It's going to be no time at all.
Either going to be 5 minutes long or 5 hours long, depending on how you're feeling.
One of the two, indeed. Now, one of the big reasons, of course, why we did this show with Ola, not only to hear his fantastic explanations as well, was also to support his cause. So if you've joined us late and you're wondering what the hell am I talking about, go and click the link in the description, www.keepolahere.com. If you want to hear an explanation in detail about what this is about, scroll to the start of the video and listen to Ola's explanation. But there is also a written explanation on the GoFundMe page. Please don't send any super chats into the channel today. Please just go and donate to the fundraiser. Ola would massively appreciate it. And Ola, while I've got you here, thank you so much for coming on the show, mate, as always.
Thank you for bringing me on, man. I appreciate it.
No worries at all. Tell people they can find you, mate, and anything else you'd like to plug.
Yeah, if you lot are into combat sports is my thing. I love MMA. I do a lot of my channel is UFC heavy. But, I still cover boxing and I cover Bellator as well. So if you're into combat sports at all, The Fight Week show is right there. Go subscribe to it. And we always do previews on there, do reviews, and other MMA news. What's going on? Things like Masvidal and Colby Covington fighting in a restaurant after they fought in the cage a couple weeks ago. Now somebody's going to go to jail because Masvidal's knocked out somebody's teeth in public. And there's all sort of things like that. Come on the channel, come show us some love. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
What do you think about Paige Van Zandt becoming a professional wrestler now?
Yeah, she went to bare knuckle fighting. She was supposed to be the poster girl for the UFC, but they now have Thug Rose, who's now the champion. And now her husband, Austin Vanderford, they into this OnlyFans thing, and they invite other girls to come and join them. They're married, and they earn
Am
way
I about
more
to get
money.
Demonetized again?
Yeah.
No. They earn way more money doing what they're doing than their actual profession. It's wild. But they're one of my favorite people out there. It's incredible. Incredible.
No, it would be an Ola show if we didn't get demonetized or something. Thank you so much, Ola, for coming on the show as always, mate. Mike, thank you as always. Tell people they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
I've enjoyed it very much. You can find us at the Gooners Pod. I think we're doing a podcast tomorrow. Actually, it's a new thing for us.
Podcasting
like on like a day where we actually plan it ahead is a new thing. So we'll be doing that tomorrow night if I can get the whole crew together. You can also follow us at Gooners v Cancer. For that cause, which I'll be talking a lot more about in the next few weeks, as soon as we get Ola squared away. And
it's the wrong terminology. We don't want him squared away. We want him kept. Like
we don't want him put away. Here, squared away means taken care of, and not
that's
not
not
like
what it means. Yeah.
And I just want to say the most valuable name in the chat is Peeny Ween. Who did want to donate, but we unfortunately have, I think,
there's a minimum, I think, of £5 in there. So yeah.
But the greatest thing that's happened in the last 5 minutes in the chat is we're trying to name your fan base, because we all know you have fans. Trying to name your fan base, and because it's generally a positive group that agrees with a lot of the sentiments that you have.
To disagree.
Trying to think of what the opposite of Rat Army would be, and I came up with Kitty Cat Army. So
we should have the opposite of army. So it'd be like Kitty Cat, just the individual Kitty Cat
candy slippers. Yeah, well, no, it has to be Army, but yeah, Kitty Cat Army is officially now the
as long as it's not the opposite of Dick Claw, I don't mind. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure to join you. I like this a lot. I think the format really works, and I think it creates some really good debate and gets a lot of discussion going. We must have chosen a good topic because it's 50-50 in the poll, which is always good. I think it's just slightly edged towards no now, just because I've said that 50. Oh no, it's gone back to 50%. So it's very split indeed. Lovely stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Like the show. I've just said that twice. Subscribe if you're new. Click the link in the description. Go donate to Ola's cause. Mike, I feel like you're poised to say something.
I just want to say I can't wait to see you guys. It's less than 2 weeks away. Anybody who's going to Brighton or Palace away, but if you're going to Brighton, come to the Tolly before and after. Maybe 12 pins after, but Tolly before. Because it's just great meeting people and saying hi and putting faces with names. So
absolutely,
or in Peeny Ween's case, he might have something else to show.
No, don't. Why? You really went the whole show with that one joke. Oh,
I'm just talking
you knew Mike was going to come with something.
Honestly, you nearly went the whole thing. You
this is why me and Mike on a show like this is a disaster. You knew that. You knew better than that, Tom. You knew better than
this
that.
Actually is my best behavior, though. This is the best I get.
Yeah, if you really want to see Mike unleashed, Mike after dark, go to the Gooners Pod. That's what you need to see. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m, of course, for the next daily Arsenal news show. Someone try and beat Peeny Ween to the first in the chat box. It's ridiculous how... honestly, it's ridiculous. What
you just said was so much worse than what I said.
It really, someone, but still, Just someone try and get into the chat box before Peony Ween, please, because it's ridiculous how he really I don't know how he does it. He's first every
Just
time.
through his bra, so it might not be a him.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
I'll create the pods. I'll go on to StreamYard. I click create show. I click on YouTube. Within seconds, he's there. I don't know how he does it. It's insane. I don't know. It just, someone's got to beat him. Someone's got to do it. So tomorrow morning, the show is at 8 a.m. Obviously, it gets put up before that. So is P. Wheat. I couldn't help it. I'm
gonna be up at 4 a.m. just to see whether he's the first one.
Honestly, it's unreal. It's ridiculous. Anyway, see you soon, guys. Have a great evening, as always. Up the Arsenal.